This gentleman, and you guys know this, and he became the president in 2008, and in just his second full year in that role, he went on and electrified the community in the baseball world, and they won a championship for the first time for the city of Sacramento. Let's give a round of applause for the one and only Larry Baer.
Thank you very much, Mayor Johnson. I have to say I've come to know Mayor Johnson for the last few years, and even though we went to Cal, I'm a lot younger than him. So, and I don't want this to sound like we're interjecting into Sacramento politics, the Giants or myself interjecting Sacramento politics, but that's a strong mayor right there. That's a strong mayor. And you need a strong mayor to get the kind of projects done in any community that are the aspirational projects that can revitalize and transform a community. You need a strong mayor, and you have a strong mayor. God, it's great to be here. Look at all these people. I mean, this is, I venture to say, I could say this now, this is a bigger group than some of the night games at Candlestick back in the 70s. Speaking of that, there was a sign that used to really bother us back in the bad old days in the 70s and a little bit in the 80s, that we welcome to Candlestick Park on Sunday. And that sign that some somewhat cynical fans brought out when the San Francisco 49ers played the New York Giants at Candlestick in various games and NFL games in the 70s and 80s, that sign was, "The Giants never win at Candlestick Park." We didn't like that so much. Now it's fine to bring that sign out. It's great to be here. As Kevin mentioned, my father, 89 years old now, was in the first graduating class of McClatchy High School. So I actually called him about an hour ago and I said, "Dad, I'm in Memorial Auditorium. What an amazing, beautiful place this is." And he said, "I was valedictorian at McClatchy High School in that building in, I think it was 1939. So it was very cool. It was a very cool moment. I wanted to, as you know, we have a great affinity with Sacramento, the San Francisco Giants, and we have a number of people in the Giants organization that are tied into Sacramento in a big way. I wanted to introduce a Sacramento native who is a key part of our front office, Senior Vice President of Communications, Stacy Slaughter. Right there. And our Director of Social Media, who actually lives in Sacramento, Brian Sarabian. Brian, are you up? Okay. What I thought I'd do for a few minutes is kind of take you through our odyssey, our crusade to get a downtown building built, a sports and quite frankly, we view it as a sports and entertainment facility built. And this is it. You've been there and seen it, I'm sure. AT&T Park, that's by day, it's by night. And if I was to leave one message with you today, it is, it can be done. Don't give up. You must persevere. You must exercise patience. You must have strong leadership, public sector and private sector leadership. Our odyssey started at Candlestick Park, which, as you might remember, was built for baseball in 1960. But really only about 6 years after it was built, the hues and cries that it was cold, that it was too remote, that it was intolerable and unacceptable facility started as early really as 1966, where Mayor Joe Alioto put together a task force to determine a way to replace Candlestick. But, you know, it really took 2 decades for that to happen. And I'm not suggesting it's going to take anywhere near that amount of time in Sacramento, but it was a process that was extremely difficult, but they didn't give up. And the original owner, Horace Stoneham, moved the team west in 1960. And through a succession of mayors and through a new owner, Bob Lurie, who, when the team was threatened to move in 1976 to Toronto, Bob saved the team, and he went on a 17-year ownership run that included 4 measures to build a new ballpark, all with public money. They were all defeated. And it was tough, and there were some very, very rough moments, and moments that seemed to suggest that the San Francisco Giants could not remain the San Francisco Giants, including a 1992 offer from the folks in Tampa to move the team, to buy the team and move the team. There was a purchase agreement signed, but our group came in 1992, really at the 11th hour, to save the team. We, quite frankly, and being totally honest, totally candid about this, we didn't know what we were going to do to get a new ballpark. We knew we had to get a new ballpark. I'll never forget Walter Shorenstein, who was one of the members of our group at the time, when we were able to buy the team for $100 million in late 1992. At the 11th hour, he said, "We got good news and we got bad news. The good news is we just bought the team. The bad news is we just bought the team. What the hell do we do now?" So we had to figure out a way. We had to figure out a new way. And even in those days, in the 90s, there was not the ability for large taxpayer subsidies that had occurred in some other markets back to build ballparks in the 70s and 80s. That the California taxpayer was committed to preserving taxpayer dollars for other uses. And our situation was such that we felt that we could, as Kevin is doing, knit together a coalition of interests, of private sector interests, of folks that believed in the vision of a new ballpark, believed what economic development could flow from a new ballpark, and what could happen to the adjoining areas of downtown San Francisco with a new ballpark. So we began the study, and we put together an idea for a ballpark that we felt was a great site. I mean, it all starts with site, and I know that the site that you have for your arena downtown has a lot of the same components here. It's a site that is accessible by public transit. Ours is at 3rd and King on the water, and really in an hub area where there's public transit and there's there's access to downtown. See if I get this right. There's the location. You see the Bay Bridge. You see the 7-8 block walk to the core downtown. So it's sort of almost perfectly situated. Access from the south. 7 or 8 different modes of public transportation to get into the ballpark. And we came up with that site. And what we did was probably the best $50,000 we ever spent was we created a model of the ballpark, and we took it to BART stations, we took it to downtown office building lobbies, and we showed it off, and we got people to embrace the vision. In San Francisco, you have an initiative process, as you do here, as you do throughout the state of California, and we felt that this sort of a project, even though we believed that we could do it privately, we needed to put it on the ballot. We needed to get public support. We also believed that the opponents, potential opponents, because a measure had been defeated 4 times, albeit with public money, potential opponents would come forward and would put it on the ballot if we did not a ballpark measure. So in March of 1996, we put a measure on the ballot to build a ballpark in this site, to be privately done, a privately built ballpark. And we believed, not dissimilar to the plan here in Sacramento, that if you could put together the resources of the team, some city resources, again, not direct city resources in terms of general fund money, but some city resources that were used in a redevelopment setting, which is again problematic now, but mainly privately financed program. We believed that we could get a ballpark up and running with the public support. So we put that on the ballot, and we found that for a privately built ballpark, largely privately built, largely with the sources coming from people who were using the arena, and think people like naming rights partners, seat rights partners, concession rights partners, that we could knit together a ballpark plan. At the time, the ballpark location was really warehouses that were in and out of use, pretty dilapidated, not generating any economic development, and shutting the people of San Francisco off from a beautiful waterfront vista. And the vote was, we needed 50%. It was a 67% positive for the ballpark, for a free ballpark. It did kind of make us scratch our heads a little bit and say, okay, now 33% of the voters voted against a free ballpark, that we're going to build a in those days, $356 million ballpark. But in doing the research afterwards, we found that the people that voted against were skeptical that it really was going to be free, because we had had so many missteps under the previous ownerships to get a ballpark built. We get to groundbreaking later in 1997, and again, you can see this was the neighborhood around the ballpark. It was really very little economic activity. It was a neighborhood that was waiting to get a catalyst, get a triggering development going. The construction got going in those days. I'll never forget, there was so much excitement in the marketplace when we did the groundbreaking. We were a little concerned. We had the president of Pacific Bell in town. His name was Jim Calloway. And the rule of thumb at least in our world of sports and big sports facilities, is there are really just two types of people that get booed. They are corporate leaders and they are politicians. So if you announce them, for a first ball or something, they tend to get booed. So we said, geez, this would be really embarrassing if the president of Pacific Bell is booed. He's just committed all this money to be our naming rights partner and to help privately finance the ballpark. So what we did was we said, okay, Jim, we're going to announce you, but we're going to say your name really fast, and then we're going to announce Willie Mays right after you. So the announcer, John Miller, our broadcaster, says, ladies and gentlemen, Jim Calloway, and now here's Willie Mays. Well, it turned out Jim Calloway got a thundering ovation because people were so appreciative that the private sector came forward, and Pacific Bell being the first of a litany of corporate sponsors, and then the public and seat rights to help make this ballpark happen. Okay, so the ballpark's under construction, and there we are on opening day in year 2000. The ballpark, our ballpark, was as we started building the ballpark, we started to see economic activity, and we had some convincing to do of the neighbors that were around the ballpark. There was not a lot of residential activity at the time, but there was some. And what we did was, in talking to those neighbors, we said, you know what, let's go look at some other ballparks around the country, urban ballparks, and let's see what effect they've had on residential uses. So I'll never forget, we did a field trip to Coors Field in Denver, which is in the Lodo section of Denver, lower downtown. And we were at the hotel, at the Westin Hotel, about 3 blocks from the ballpark, and we had about 15 people that were building owners pretty close to our ballpark. This is before we opened. And we're at breakfast, and we took out the newspaper, the Rocky Mountain News, opened the newspaper, and the classified ad said, loft housing, only 1.5 blocks from Coors Field. And these people are scratching their head and saying, wait a minute, they're saying they're using residential, they're talking about that as a benefit of being close to the ballpark, as a benefit of their offering, of their loft housing and of their apartments. We said, that's right. It can, if done right, if done properly, if the ballpark's designed properly, presented properly, wedged into the community in the right way, can actually be very compatible with residential. Keep going the wrong way. What happened was, not only did it become 81 baseball games, a place to watch the Giants, but it became a happening. The ballpark became a happening, I think similar to what a beautiful arena would be here. We happen to have the water, and we also have a carefully designed port walk, which was part of our entitlements, that we had to create open access to the water, and we have a port walk right behind right field. And really to create a sense of place and an iconic feel for this development, whether there's a baseball game going or not. One of the things that's critical in an arena, and we've been able to do decently well with the ballpark, is look at other uses. So the NBA is going to play in a downtown Sacramento arena, but a lot of other things will play in a downtown Sacramento arena, such as family shows and concerts, symposia, etc. We have a total of 120 non-baseball events every year. Some of them are small. Some of them are a company picnic for a big corporation that'll be on the field. Others are Rolling Stones concerts and major events that bring people from a regional audience in. They spend a lot of money staying in hotels and joining us. So one of the things, the great components of the design in today's world of a ballpark or an arena is to make them compatible for other uses. And corporations and entertainment, there's a lot of other, a key thing is how many nights are you lit for an arena? How many days can we be used as a ballpark beyond the anchor tenant? So we opened in 2000. 2001, that was the neighborhood. It was a neighborhood that was just beginning to realize that a ballpark could be a pretty cool place to be around. We have here I say here, it's kind of hard to point to it, but just on the near side of the ballpark, you have basically empty land, and across from the ballpark, basically unused, undeveloped land. Fast forward to 8 years, and you can see that has been transformed into lots of residential, lots of ground floor retail, and lots of office. So in the 8 years or so, of the first 8 years of the ballpark, a massive recognition that the ballpark in this neighborhood would provide not just a comfortable place to work, but a comfortable place to live. We find that the demographics of the ballpark neighborhood are ideal for not just the San Francisco Giants as a neighbor, but really from the governance standpoint and the growth of the city. And Mayor Lee is very excited about the fact that within walking distance of this ballpark, as are we excited about this, are now the corporate headquarters of companies that didn't exist when the ballpark was put into motion. Zynga, 5 blocks away. Twitter, 8 or 9 blocks away. Google's San Francisco offices, not their main headquarters, but San Francisco offices within a short walk to the ballpark. I was talking to people at Facebook recently, and they said that 48% of the people that work at Facebook, which as you know is a Menlo Park, Silicon Valley-based company, but 48% that work there live in San Francisco. Why? Because they want to be in an area that is vibrant, that is exciting, that is fun. And a ballpark is one component, as it would be an arena, to attract folks that are in their 20s and 30s and are the web designers and the engineers and the technologists of the future. So what you see there versus, let's do the contrast again here. 2001 South Beach neighborhood when the ballpark was 1 year old, and South Beach neighborhood when the ballpark was 9 years old. Totally different. Restaurants, exciting restaurants. We had an entrepreneur when we had our approval, won the election. He went and bought a corner right across the ballpark, and it paid off because the first in and most successful, and Momo's, which has become sort of an institution. Ballpark. I mentioned the transportation, and I know transportation here in Sacramento is a real opportunity for the arena. We have not a lot of parking, because it's an urban ballpark, and we've been able to achieve a 50-50 modal split, meaning that 50% of the folks that come to our ballpark do not come by car. 50% come some other way. So that's light rail, that's commuter rail, that's bicycles, that's walking from the financial district, that is boats docking in the harbor, taxis, etc. So it's become, and that's really for us in the baseball business and needing to sell 3.2 million tickets a year. That's part of the experience. That's the beginning of the experience. We're in the business of making sure Buster Posey's healthy and making sure we win games and making sure that the Giants get back to the World Series. But we're also in the business of maybe some more controllable things, like making sure that it is a fun experience, that it's a clean place, that it's easy to get in and out of, and we believe that that's something that we, with the right ballpark, that we can control year after year. We believe that and this is the Mission Bay development in which we're around, we believe that there's a new opportunity for us, and we're sort of embarking on the same mission that you have here, a new opportunity for us to do an Act Two. We have a plot of land that is in the back door of our ballpark, or front door, depending on which direction you're coming, that's outlined in yellow here, that provides the opportunity to, we believe, create a new mixed-use neighborhood, largely leveraging off the success of the ballpark and the iconic nature of our ballpark neighborhood now. And we're calling this the Mission Rock Project. You will see that there's a number of interesting, or there's a number of boxes here, but I'm going to put it into real terms, where we believe we can bring a entire new neighborhood south of Market. This is a park that would be sort of the lead edge of this neighborhood. That is that if any of you are familiar with Crissy Field, which is in the northern part of town, this would be a Crissy Field equivalent in the southern part of town. And then a combination of, and there would be great events there on the green, and then a combination of offices, residential, and perhaps a performing arts arena, theater / full arena, where we could bring NBA basketball back to San Francisco. That's a possibility. It's been out in the press. And again, largely because of the success of the ballpark in the neighborhood that has grown around the ballpark. So I guess my point as it relates to Sacramento is, you know what? If you can get one of these started and it can have the desired effect, there will be a ripple effect, there will be a domino effect that can occur, that it can beget more development and more exciting economic growth. So our future, we believe now, with the ballpark about a decade old, 12 years old, is to create additional economic growth in our community. It'll be good for the Giants, it'll be good for the ballpark, and we think that going forward for the city of Sacramento, there's the tremendous opportunity, and with the leadership that exists here, we look forward to partnering with you in any way we can to see great mutual results. Thank you.
So, Larry Baer, Giants, exciting. Come on, let's give him another round of applause. You know, we absolutely are committed to this facility, and one of the things that I think that you have heard is not just the importance of what this facility has done in the surrounding neighborhoods, but how it really can be an iconic, game-changing project from a perception. And Steve Hammond with the Convention and Visitors Bureau mentions on a regular basis that Sacramento and this community are known for several things. One of them is the importance of a facility like this. The Kings absolutely are an important piece of this community, but this facility even more so, and we're going to do everything we can to put that in place. So again, thank you all for being here. The staff of the Downtown Partnership, you do an incredible job of managing these events. Thank you. Happy New Year to everybody, and we'll continue to work with you this year. Thank you.